What if everything you've ever been taught about pain is a misunderstanding? What if the entire world, trained to avoid discomfort at all costs, has it backward and has been teaching you to flee from the very thing that could awaken you? Most of us were raised to see pain, unease, and hardship as obstacles, problems to fix, states to escape, failures to correct, instead of signals to decipher. We've been conditioned to numb discomfort, to plaster it over with distraction, to layer our lives in entertainment, addiction, noise, and reactive coping, so that we never have to face the raw edges of our experience. But here's the brutal irony. Pain doesn't disappear when you stop feeling it. It goes underground, shaping you in secret, informing your decisions, your fears, your patterns, your self-worth. Pain is not something to be left behind. It is something to be understood. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive, not comfortable, not safe, but alive. Those moments often came after something cracked open a piece of you, a betrayal, a loss, a rupture, a rejection, a dream that disappointed you. Yet we cling to the illusion that growth should feel pleasant, or at least tolerable. But the truth is deeper and more ancient. Discomfort precedes insight. Pain precedes clarity. The discomfort you resist is the teacher you avoid. And the pain you flee from is the doorway to a truer version of yourself, if you're brave enough to walk through it. What separates those who evolve from those who remain stuck is not their ability to avoid pain. It is their courage to stay with it long enough to hear what it's saying. Pain doesn't tell lies. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't pretend to protect your ego. It confronts you with the raw truth about your choices, your habits, your blind spots, your false narratives, and all the parts of you that you keep well hidden. Pain reveals what pleasure never could. The contradictions between who you say you are and who you actually live as. Carl Jung, who understood the interior life like few others in history, said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Jung didn't mean pain as suffering for suffering's sake. He meant pain as awakening. Pain is the chisel that chips away the brittle self, the version of you built from stories, roles, social expectations, and conditioned patterns until only what is essential remains. It does not break you for the sake of destruction. It clears space for reconstruction. But most people don't treat pain as an initiator. They treat it like a malfunction. They wear efficiency like armor, pretending the wound never happened, forcing themselves back into routine, shoving silence down over the ache with drugs, busyness, validation from others, spiritual bypassing, and false positivity. Instead of landing in truth, they turn away from it. They become experts at avoiding friction rather than students of their own depths. And so the pain recedes. Not healed, just anesthetized. It becomes a ghost, haunting every decision, every fear, every hesitation you call intuition, but is really the echo of unresolved suffering trapped in the shadows of your psyche. Pain does not magically resolve when ignored. It becomes pattern, a secret pull shaping your relationships, your ambitions, your choices, your fears, your self-image. So before you rush to rid yourself of discomfort, before you reach for the distraction, before you numb, before you soothe, before you pretend it's not that bad, ask this deeply. What is your pain trying to teach you? Not what to escape, but what to become. Because the very thing you fear most may be the thing that makes you whole. Pain has no politeness. It arrives without invitation and refuses to leave quietly. It doesn't ask for permission to teach, it simply begins the lesson. But most of us never stay in the classroom long enough to learn. We call pain the enemy, when in reality, it's often the only honest voice left in a life full of polite lies. Lies like, "I'm fine, it's not that bad, they didn't mean it, I can handle it." Pain cuts through that noise like a blade. It doesn't care about your narratives. It wants to show you where you're still broken, not to shame you, but to rebuild you. Here's the paradox. The more we avoid pain, the more control it gains. The more we resist it, the more subtly it roots into our being. Avoidance is not healing, it's deferral. And every deferred pain becomes future confusion. That's why people who seem put together on the surface often unravel behind closed doors. They never stopped to bleed, so they never stopped bleeding. They just bled in silence. Some wounds are meant to break the surface. Some emotions are meant to be honored, not managed. You are not a machine to optimize. You are a human being with layers of grief, joy, longing, trauma, guilt, desire, and memory. And the ones who learn to hold their pain with presence, not panic, become something almost untouchable. Resilient not because they never break, but because they no longer fear the breaking. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." This isn't about glorifying pain. It's about refusing to waste it. Think of the person you admire most, not for their success, but for their presence. Someone grounded, clear-eyed, strong in a way that doesn't demand attention. Someone who can stand still in chaos. That person has suffered. Not because they were weak, but because life tested them and they listened. They didn't run, they didn't distract. They paid attention to what their suffering was saying. And in that attention, they became someone else entirely. Your pain is not just a scar waiting to be healed. It is a map waiting to be read. Inside that map are directions toward boundaries you haven't set, truths you haven't spoken, dreams you've buried, people you need to release, illusions you need to outgrow, habits that no longer serve who you're becoming. Pain reveals these things, but only if you ask the right question. Not, how do I get rid of this? But, why is this here? What belief is this breaking? What part of me is trying to die? So something truer can be born. You weren't meant to be comfortable all the time. You were meant to evolve. And evolution is messy. Growth is gritty. Becoming more of who you are is not a gentle process. It's a shedding, a grieving, a relentless confrontation with everything false inside you. And pain. Pain is how the false begins to fall away. But maybe you're afraid. Afraid of what might surface. Afraid of who you'll become without your old wounds to define you. That's normal. Most people would rather sit in predictable suffering than risk the unknown. Because if they heal, if they change, they no longer get to be the victim. They no longer get to blame the past. They have to take responsibility for who they're becoming. That is the real fear. Not the pain, but what the pain might demand of you. So here's the truth. Not everyone is ready for this kind of work. Not everyone wants to confront themselves this deeply. If you're still looking for comfort over clarity, validation over vision, this channel is not for you. Do yourself a favor and unsubscribe. Stay numb, stay safe. Let the rest of the world keep telling you pain is weakness. But if something in you is tired of numbing, if you're ready to make your suffering mean something, then stay, watch, reflect, evolve. Because pain has wisdom, the only question is, will you listen? There's a moment in every person's life when the pain becomes too loud to ignore. Not dramatic pain, not movie scene pain, but the kind that sits quietly in your bones. The kind that visits in the dead of night when your mind is calm and there's nothing left to distract you. This pain doesn't scream, it whispers, and it asks questions you've spent years trying not to answer. What if everything you called a failure was really a redirection? What if the ache you've been running from was actually the compass pointing toward your truth? Most people miss this. Most people numb, escape, explain. They look for someone to fix it or something to blame. Because facing pain, not just experiencing it, but listening to it, takes a rare kind of courage. A kind of inner bravery that can't be taught, only earned. But if you've made it this far, maybe that courage already lives in you. You see, pain is not just suffering. Pain is information. It's feedback from your soul. It doesn't come to punish. It comes to wake you up. Ask yourself, what hurts the most right now? And underneath that, what does it reveal about you? Maybe your heartbreak isn't about the other person. Maybe it's about the way you've abandoned yourself. Maybe your burnout isn't about work. Maybe it's the result of trying to prove your worth through output instead of presence. Maybe your loneliness isn't about being alone. Maybe it's the universe asking you to build a relationship with the one person you've been avoiding. You. Pain doesn't point outward, it always points inward, as Carl Jung once wrote. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In other words, the pain you don't face becomes the pattern that controls you. Look back. How many times have you repeated the same cycle with different names, different faces, different outcomes, yet the same emptiness remained? That's not failure. That's a message, one you're finally ready to hear. Let's get honest for a moment. You weren't just hurt, you were cracked open. And now you're standing in the ruins of what used to be your identity, your illusions, your comfort zone. But here's the secret. The ruins are where you find the truth. Because everything you thought was protecting you, the performance, the people-pleasing, the pretending, was really just a cage. And pain. Pain is the thing that breaks the lock. That gnawing discomfort isn't there to torture you. It's there to strip away the lies, the ones you believed about what you need, what you're worth, who you are. Most people think healing is about feeling better. It's not. Healing is about becoming real. And becoming real is a violent process. It demands loss. It demands ego death. It demands that you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this revealing in me? Do you see it now? The moment you stop seeing pain as a problem to fix and start treating it as a teacher to learn from, your entire life begins to shift, because suddenly the questions change. You no longer ask, how do I make this stop? You ask, what is this showing me about my boundaries? What belief is this pain challenging? What part of me is dying, and what part is asking to be born? And when you start living from those questions, you stop being a victim of your life. You become the architect of it. There's one final truth I need you to understand. The pain you carry is not a weakness, it's a portal. You just have to be brave enough to walk through it. So, I leave you with this question, not to soothe you, but to awaken you. What part of your pain have you been running from that might actually be the birthplace of your strength? And if you listened to it, really listened, who might you finally become? But what if the pain you carry isn't a curse, but a compass? Nietzsche once said, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. This isn't just poetic tragedy, it's a blueprint. Pain is the most raw, unfiltered feedback life gives you. It's honest, it's direct, and it's persistent. You can't negotiate with it. You can only listen. And if you do, you might start to see something. You might see that every wound has a shape. Every ache carries a message. Every breakdown is encoded with insight about your boundaries, your values, your unmet needs. The deepest parts of you that you've long abandoned in favor of who you were taught to be. That feeling of disconnection you carry, it's not random. It's the voice of your soul trying to scream over the noise of your expectations. That anxiety that creeps in when you're about to make a decision, it's not weakness. It might be your intuition, warning you that the life you're building isn't actually yours. And the depression, that heavy stillness that swallows your motivation, what if it's not laziness, but grief? Grief for the parts of you that were never allowed to live. We are taught to suppress, taught to fix, taught to run. But few are taught to sit, to face, to feel. You may have been told to stay positive, but that kind of forced light can be just another form of blindness. Real transformation doesn't come from denial. It comes from confrontation. Sitting in the mess, naming it, asking it what it wants from you. You see, pain doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to wake you up. It wants to realign you. But that only happens when you stop resisting and start paying attention. There are moments in life when the pain becomes so unbearable that silence becomes the only language you speak. In that silence, something ancient stirs, a knowing, a presence. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. That's where the wisdom lives. Not in the escape, not in the distractions, but in the pause between the tears, the breath between the screams, the silence between the breakdowns. In that stillness, there's an opening, a space to ask, what part of me is crying out to be seen? The truth is, your pain might be the most loyal part of you. It stayed when everyone else left. It knocked when no one else listened. It whispered when the world screamed over your voice. It didn't give up on you, even when you tried to give up on yourself. But will you finally sit with it? Not to fix it, not to silence it, but to learn from it. Because maybe, just maybe, your next breakthrough lives on the other side of that question. There's something no one tells you about healing. It's not always beautiful. Sometimes it looks like isolation, like nights spent in silence when all you want is noise to drown out the ache. Sometimes it feels like regression, like you're moving backward, slipping into the same thoughts, the same fears, the same old stories you swore you'd outgrown. But healing isn't linear. It spirals, it revisits, it deepens. And the truth is, some of the most powerful transformations don't come when the pain stops, but when you stop being afraid of it. Because the day you stop seeing your pain as the enemy, you stop running from yourself. Look around you. How many people do you know who live on autopilot, who numb, escape, over-explain, overachieve, all to avoid sitting alone with their own thoughts, all to avoid the wound that whispers, "You're not enough." But here's the paradox. The pain doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're still alive. It means you care. It means you've tasted life deeply enough to be marked by it. And that is power. There's a certain strength in being cracked open by life and choosing not to become bitter. There's a certain bravery in facing your own darkness without trying to rush to the light. It means you've stopped chasing healing like a finish line and started living from the truth of who you are. Right now, pain included. Because pain changes you. It strips away the illusions. It dismantles the ego. It dissolves the masks you wear, to be accepted by a world that never really knew you. And when you allow that stripping, when you let it burn, something emerges from the ashes that cannot be faked or fabricated. Clarity, direction, depth. Not everyone will understand the version of you that pain forges. Some will say you've changed. Others will say you've grown cold. But only you will know. You've simply stopped abandoning yourself. You've learned that discomfort is a signal, not a sentence. That emptiness is not failure, but space, sacred space, for something new to grow. And that pain, far from being the thing that breaks you, might just be the thing that finally makes you whole. So now we arrive at the final question. Not, how do I stop the pain? But, what is my pain trying to teach me? And am I brave enough to listen?